Once a giant, always a giant. For me, it's only a giant.
What's going on, YouTube? Biggie546. Definitely hit that subscribe button if you're new. Like the video if you like the video. And I won't tell if you click that bell. Let's go ahead and get into this. All right, so let's get straight into it. Week 2, Washington Commanders, the team that the Giants have owned for the last however many years. And I think this team is a good matchup for us, even, knowing what we have at quarterback. If he plays like how he did last week, no one is a good matchup for us. But if he can play, somewhat normal, somewhat regular, or below average, I think we have a shot to win this game. I think, like I said, they're a really good matchup for us. We in the past, years past, have been a great matchup for Washington because their D line used to be so great. And for some reason, we dominated them. I have no idea why. But looking at it now, it's kind of reverse because our D line has improved. Now, they didn't look too good last week, but I still do think against an offensive line that isn't as good as Minnesota's, especially the two tackles. You got a rookie starting at left tackle. So I really think that our defensive line should be able to make something happen. But I'll get into more of the matchups as we go along. First off, I want to start off with the quarterbacks. First, you got Daniel Jones. And, I mean, he had a horrible game last week. He had as about a horrible game as you could have. It wasn't good. He missed check down after check down, short throw after short throw. Didn't attempt to pass over 20 yards. Was only 4 for 9 over 10 yards. 4 for 9 over 10 yards. Threw the ball 40-something times and didn't get 200 yards. So obviously not a good day for Daniel Jones at the office last week. Jayden Daniels had a solid game for his first game out. He did a lot of running. 16 times he ran the football. Dan Quinn is a guy that doesn't want him running the ball that much, and I don't blame him. He's your second overall pick. Running the ball 16 times a game, it is not going to be sustainable. He's not really able to figure out how to slide yet. So he's going to have to figure out how to play from the pocket. And the question is he going to play from the pocket this game? Or is it going to be something that he has to learn, going further and further down the road? Dan Quinn doesn't want him to run this many times. But if it's winning him a game, I doubt he'll say, hey, Jayden Daniels, thanks for getting that first down or thanks for running for that 50-yard touchdown. Don't run again. I don't think he's going to say that. So, there are a ton of things that could possibly happen in this game with both of these quarterbacks. You got a rookie quarterback and you got a 6-year quarterback who plays like a rookie quarterback. So you don't really know what you're going to get. As far as Jayden Daniels, last week, they couldn't really get down the field much. He was 0 for 2. 2 deep shots to Terry McLaurin down the left side, over 20 yards. So he was 0 for 2 there. And then 1 for 1 over 10 yards. So that shows that Jayden Daniels was throwing a bunch of passes. I think maybe 21 passes altogether went for less than 10 yards. So really conservative offense that Washington is running. They're not putting the ball in harm's way too much. And Jayden Daniels is getting to ease along. So will they open things up? The Giants are going to really be blitzing. So maybe their zone might be there to sort of slow down some of these short passes. We'll see if they switch things up a bit. Cliff Kingsbury, I'm not that huge of a fan of, but I think he did better than people give him credit for with Kyler Murray. And of course, both of those guys are running quarterbacks, and I think he can probably get some good things out of Jayden Daniels. So looking at the Giants offense, I'm going to start from our offensive perspective. First things first, Dable cannot call another game like how he did this past game. He got outcoached by Brian Flores on the defensive end over there. He's going against Dan Quinn. And Dan Quinn, I don't think is as creative as Brian Flores, but he is a good defensive coordinator. And now he's a head coach, but he will probably be calling the defensive plays. So you cannot get outcoached this second week in a row. That is just unacceptable. You cannot get, and maybe you can get outcoached, but you can't get outcoached to the point to where, if the score was for coaches, you would lose by 20, 30 points because it was a masterclass what Brian Flores did to him. So I have not seen the Dallas Cowboys, since Dan Quinn has been there, disguise a bunch of coverages. They run stunts. They rush four. Sometimes they send blitzes, but a lot of times they run stunts. They rush four, and they play same old Seattle cover three. But actually, the Commanders have played a lot of in this first game man defense, 2 man under. So he's switching it up a little bit. 2 man under, cover three, quarters coverage, like everybody in the entire league plays a bunch of quarters coverage. But that gives you a little bit of a sneak peek of what Dan Quinn is going to be doing. And Dable cannot get out coached for the second week. And I don't think he will. So offensive line versus defensive line is going to be huge. It is every week. You're going to hear me talk about the Lions every week, no matter if we had a good game or bad game. I think pass pro wise, we had a great game. We had a great game pass pro wise. He got sacked 5 times, and a bunch of people in high places are saying, you shouldn't be getting sacked 5 times. The offensive line needs to improve. I can understand their perspective, but if you look at the game, Daniel Jones held the ball for a very long time. He ran into several sacks. It just is what it is there. And this week we have a different challenge. The edges weren't really a problem last week, but when it was a problem, it was mostly the interior. And they don't have the interior rushers that Washington has. Washington has Jonathan Allen and Daron Payne, and both of those guys made their presence known last week. Baker got out of a bunch of sack attempts, but they were in the backfield. They were causing, mayhem in the backfield. So we cannot allow them to do what they did last week because Daniel Jones isn't Baker Mayfield. Sadly, I have to say that Daniel Jones isn't Baker Mayfield, and he's not going to be able to escape. He's not going to be able to make smart decisions after escaping if he does escape. So that is something I'm really paying a lot of attention to. Greg Van Roten last week had a little bit of struggles, and then John Runyon had some struggles, and Weston Richburg's in his second year, so they have got to gel, and all they have to do is just not let them 2 defensive tackles ruin the game. If they don't ruin the game, I think we should be fine. When you take a look at their edge players, they've got Fowler, they've got Armstrong, they've got Cleveland Farrell. Not a bunch of scary edge rushers. Fowler has been a good rotational rusher, but as a starter, not necessarily someone who I think is going to break the game open. And I think we have good enough tackles to really withstand that edge. I think these guys are a bunch of edge 3s, edge, 2.5s, but they're not first string edge rushers that you want out there. And I think we should also be able to run the ball against these edge players as well. If we can hold up a bit on the interior and not let things get blown up, we should be able to run off tackle a good amount. Frankie Louvu is a guy at that second level who is a good pass rusher, also a good linebacker, fast, physical, and he's someone that you have to watch out for. Over 100 tackles last year, made some interceptions, 7 sacks. He's a guy that doesn't get a lot of credit, but made a huge impact last year on his defense. Bobby Wagner, old man Bobby, reunited with Dan Quinn, is someone that is really good against the run, knows everything that's going to happen on the field. Not a play that he hasn't seen, but he's not the same player against pass. He's just not as athletic as he used to be. And that is helpful for us because we don't have to worry about this guy ruining the game in pass coverage. So good against the run, but pass coverage is going to be something else. Now, when you look at both of those two together, Louvu and Wagner, that gives you a pretty solid run defense at the second level. But we've got to try to win at the line of scrimmage and hopefully get those guys to the second level and make sure those linebackers aren't clean once we get up there. Looking at wide receiver, our wide receivers did not do a bad job last week, but they did have a couple of drops. Malik Neighbors had a drop, the tight ends. And when I say wide receivers, I mean tight ends as well. And even, pass catching running backs. And we've got to catch the ball consistently. But I also want to see Jalen Hyatt out there because I don't think that Washington can deal with his speed. They have fast guys. Like Emmanuel Forbes is a fast corner, but he can't deal with Hyatt's speed. He's just not a good cornerback. And I think he just presents a danger, a threat to the defense that they would have to prepare for, that they would have to account for every time he's out there. And I think he should be out there. He only played 16 snaps last week. Let's get Jalen Hyatt out there. Come on. Malik Neighbors, let's get him involved earlier than we did last week. Darius Slayton is still in concussion protocol. Who knows if he'll play or not, but that's going to force us to use Hyatt, which I'm not going to say it's good that Darius is hurt, but it is good if Hyatt can get some more reps because I think that speed just gives us that advantage. So Hyatt, Malik, the slot corner. I think their slot cornerback actually performed pretty well last week. So that'll be a decent matchup, him against Wandale. But as far as their guys on the outside, down the field, they have been struggling. They've been bad. Emmanuel Forbes had a 33.5 PFF grade. And I don't really care about PFF grades, but when a grade is that low, it's just objectively bad. It's just, if a grade is like 97 or something and a grade is 30 something, it's usually like obvious that anybody could take a look at it and know that this player had an amazing game or had a horrible game. And a 33.5 coverage grade or just overall grade for both Emmanuel Forbes and St. Juice had a 61 PFF grade, which is about average, a little bit below average, but not good scores. Washington as a team had a 35 coverage grade, so they did not do a lot of covering. Now, they were going against Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, and we don't have Mike Evans or Chris Godwin. We don't have either one. Malik Neighbors, we hope, can turn into a Mike Evans, but we don't have a Mike Evans or Chris Godwin on this roster, and it just is what it is. But I do think this secondary is still bad. I think the Bucs were able to kind of abuse a couple of the same plays against them, like dagger, which really they were always open on the out route. And I think that we can do some of the same things with Malik Neighbors going to the outside. And I think that it is definitely worth a game that we can take some shots. They kept playing man defense and kept getting shredded and wouldn't come out of it. I think that they should, hopefully they keep playing man defense, or maybe they decide to steal what happened last week and do a bunch of disguises. But I don't think they have the personnel to even do that. You got Harrison Smith back there playing safety. I mean, starting off at the line of scrimmage and dropping back 30 yards instantly. I don't think they have a safety that good, and I don't think they have Stephon Gilmore or another corner that can hold up as well on the outside either. So I don't think they'll be able to replicate what Minnesota did, and I do think that their corners are not equipped to deal with our wide receiver core. Not that I think that they're so special. I just think that they're a good wide receiver core if you look at just the talent, and I think that we can definitely exploit this secondary. So Daniel Jones, this is your redemption game. I'm not really going to leave this game if we win and you have a big game and just say like, oh, this was an amazing game. Daniel Jones is back, because the matchup is really, his finger looking good. The matchup is really good. So I'm not going to be, surprised one way or another how he plays. This is really not a real test. But Daniel Jones should have a little time. He should be able to look downfield, and I expect him to have, he had 0 last week, throws over 20 yards. I expect him to have 5 throws over 20 yards, and I expect him to, at least complete 3 out of those 5. That's my prediction for the week. Speaking of predictions, Underdog Fantasy is still going crazy. They're going crazy all September long. Today, they got CeeDee Lamb this whole week, actually. They got CeeDee Lamb if he gets over a half of a yard, which we know he'll get. Travis Kelce didn't even have a good game last week, but he still got that half a yard. If CeeDee goes over a half a yard, you can throw him into your lineup. I went ahead and stacked him with Jalen Waddle, higher than 5 receptions. Jayden Daniels, higher than 250 total yards, which I think is definitely going to happen. Either he goes crazy against us, throws for a bunch of yards, or he's down and throws for a bunch of yards. I think that will happen either way, especially adding in the rush yards. Daniel Jones, higher than 207 yards. Just said that I thought he would get down the field at least 3 or 4 times this weekend. Terry McLaurin, 4 receptions. No brainer. They are going to try to get the ball to Terry early and often. And then Graham Gano, higher than 1.5 extra points made. The Giants scored 2 touchdowns. We're in. Hopefully they can make that happen. You all can follow my picks. You all can make your own picks. And if you deposit anything in the Underdog Fantasy, you can get up to $1,000 in bonus cash. They're still going crazy with the deals. I'll pop the calendar up here so you all can see. Get on Underdog Fantasy, use code Diggy, and you can get up to $1,000 in bonus cash. The link will be in the description. Let's get back to it. So next up, the Washington offense. They are an interesting unit, and it all starts with the quarterback. Jayden Daniels is the key to the game. Can he complete passes from the pocket going downfield? And I mean, the guy can really throw it. He can really throw it down the field, can really make those deep passes and change games. If he's able to connect there, that could be a huge problem. We already know that he's going to run, and he's going to run without hesitation. Pretty much what they had him doing his first week is check your first read. If your first read isn't open, run. Which is why I said he had no completions over 20 yards. And he had, I think, 1 or 2 completions over 10 yards, or 1 completion over 10 yards. So he was doing a lot of dinking and dunking. And they pretty much were saying, if you don't see the guy open first, either take the check down or take off and run. And he said, I'm going to take off and run, because he ran 16 times. And I think they only had maybe 3 or 4 designed runs. So he ran a lot. And if he can control this game running the football, and if he can control this game throwing the ball, throwing bombs down the field to Terry McLaurin, because I think that's really their only real threat at receiver, then they can definitely make some noise and win this game pretty easily. So we have got to limit Jayden Daniels' ability to run. We got to keep contained. We got to keep him in the pocket and make him throw those short passes, make him dink and dunk them all the way down the field until he makes a mistake. Because the mistake will come if you make a rookie quarterback in his second week just throw the ball 5 yards, 8 yards, 5 yards, 8 yards, 12. The mistake will come. So make him be patient. He will make mistakes. And put a pass rush on him. I know I said keep contained, but Dak should be getting pressure up the middle. And you can still rush the passer while also keeping contained. So if you do rush him and you do get there, make sure you make the tackle. Make sure you make the tackle. And if we do that, we should win the game. And if not, we're going to have some huge problems. He may run us out of the building. Next up, let's take a look at where he should be going. I mean, I think there's only a matter of time before Jayden Daniels hits Terry McLaurin on a 70-yard touchdown, and let it not be this week. Make it not this week. He tried it twice last week, and they're going to go back to that. So make sure it's not this week. Terry McLaurin is a monster. He's someone that just gets no respect in the league, and I don't know why. He averages 87 yards a game against the Giants in his career, which it's good. He's had a couple, I think he's had like 300 or 400-yard games, but 87 yards per game is really good. He usually has that one bomb against us. Now, it's resulted in them losing most of the times, but he usually has that one big play, and we got to be looking out for it. Make it just one play or make it no plays, but if he controls this game along with Jayden Daniels, then that is going to be an issue. Austin Eckler is an X factor. He's been catching the ball out of the backfield, and last week he had 2 catches where he just caught the ball, and he made like 3 or 4 people miss. He's bouncing off people still. Austin Eckler still has some juice in the tank, and we cannot let this guy get 8 to 10 receptions and win the game for them. If Darius Moisau is playing linebacker, covering Austin Eckler, expect Austin Eckler to have a huge game. I'm really hoping that they throw Isaiah Simmons in the game, because Isaiah Simmons is much more apt to be covering running backs and tight ends. Because if Moisau is out there, I mean, we're basically just saying we don't care about covering the running backs and tight ends. We're just throwing this guy out there because we drafted him, and for some reason we don't want to play Isaiah Simmons. So Eckler is an issue if we don't have the right personnel in there. Brian Robinson, of course, their other running back, can also catch the ball. He's also never been someone who's easy to bring down. I mean, this dude is like, a great value Derrick Henry. What do you want to call him? But whatever you're thinking, the guy is just a real tall chore to bring down, and we have got to make sure that we gang tackle as far as Brian Robinson goes, because again, he does not go down in the first hit. He's big, he's strong, and he's someone that we got to watch out for. The offensive line, though, I think is the real weakness here. I think the offensive line is limiting the couple of folks I just mentioned. You know, like they got a couple of nice tight ends. They got Terry McLaurin, not much in the other receivers. They got the 2 running backs, and they got Jayden Daniels, a beast at quarterback. But the offensive line right now is just not up to par. It's just not up to par. They did not do a very good job. There's a reason that Jayden Daniels kept running because he was under pressure. So we have got to get pressure this week. We got to get pressure. There's not an offensive lineman on their line that I say, oh yeah, he should dominate this week. Like Darius Saul last week, I said, yeah, he should dominate. Brian O'Neill, I said he probably will have a good game against Thibodeau, but Thibodeau could get some pressure. Well, Thibodeau did nothing. But one thing Kayvon Thibodeau likes to do is show up against Washington and show up against bad tackles, and I think he'll do that. And I think Brian Burns will definitely show up against the rookie left tackle. If Brian Burns is getting paid all this money, like $30 million a year, almost a quarterback money, and does not dominate, like completely work the rookie left tackle, I don't know what to say. We should be having buyer's remorse. He should definitely win this game outright. I expect him to chip him. I expect him to have a lot of attention. But if he's just singled up against a rookie left tackle and can't win, that is going to be an issue for me. That is something that we should definitely win. So that's really all I have. I think the keys to victory are winning at the line of scrimmage, as it will be every week. I don't necessarily think we need to establish the run, but that will make things a lot easier than it was last week. And taking those shots, because it looks like they love playing man defense. They love betting on their corners, and their corners are not very good for now. So you all let me know what you think the key to victory will be for beating the Washington Commanders. I think they're a team that's in our weight class, so I'm not saying like there's no way that they can beat us, because I think we're both bad teams right now. But I definitely think the Giants should be favored. And by the way, we are not favored. We're not favored. They're actually favored by 2 points, which I think it's in their stadium. So actually, on a neutral field, we're favored. But with the 3-point swing, with them being at home, they're 2-point favorites. So we're actually a 1-point favorite, if that makes any sense. But you all let me know what you're thinking in this game. Have you already given up on the season? I know some people are going to be typing, Biggie, did you just see this last week's performance? You can't pick us to win against any team. Well, guess what? I'm picking the Giants to win 24-13. Let's go. Week 2. Let's get it. If you made it this deep into the video, come on, just hit the subscribe button. I make Giants content primarily, draft content secondarily, and during the season, I'm going to be doing a lot of reacting to pretty much most of the NFL games and everything NFL. So if you made it this deep, go ahead and join the D6 squad.